If every single NFL matchup went the way it was supposed to, that would be a little boring now, wouldn't it? Of course, when one team is heavily favored to beat another team, it usually does, but not always. In the 59 completed seasons of the Super Bowl era, we've had our share of upsets, and today we will be revealing the 10 biggest upsets of them all. And we will be doing that the same way we always do, by using C-Score, a metric created by this channel that evaluates every single team of the Super Bowl era by doing so much more than just looking at its record. For a deeper explanation about how C-Score works, be sure to check out the description of this video. All we're going to do here is take the C-Score of the winning team and subtract it from the C-Score of the losing team. The larger that difference, the bigger that upset will be, and the higher it will rank. These matchups are all from the regular season. We do have a separate video of the biggest upsets in playoff history. That's linked in the description below. Thank you so much for joining us today. Take a moment, if you would, please, to like and share this video, subscribe to the channel, and ding that notification bell. Let's get the countdown started. Our number 10 entry takes us to Week 11 of the 1970 NFL season. The matchup on this day involved the 9-1 Minnesota Vikings and the 3-7 New York Jets. The C-Score spread between these two teams is 51.055. Of course, this 1970 Vikings team was phenomenal during the regular season, going 12-2 with a C-Score of 37.823. The Jets, just 2 years removed from a Super Bowl championship, had a tough time of things in their first year after the merger. They only got outscored by 31 points while going 4-10, but they didn't play a very tough schedule, putting together a C-Score of -13.232. In this game, however, the Jets led 10-0 in the first half, rushed for 187 yards on 51 carries, controlling the game, were +4 on turnovers, and were able to close out a 20-10 upset victory. We move on to number 9, and just looking at this date, December 29th, 2019, Week 17, I think a lot of you will probably know what game we're talking about here. Indeed, this is the 12-3 New England Patriots hosting the 4-11 Miami Dolphins. Little mini spoiler alert for the rest of the video, this is the only game where the upset took place at the team's home field. So this is the Super Bowl era's biggest road upset, with a C-Score difference of 51.417. The Patriots in 2019 had a pretty easy time of things on the schedule, as they tended to do, which is why their 12-4 record and near +200 point differential only brought forth a C-Score of 24.619. Miami, on the other hand, went 5-11 despite being outscored by almost 200 points. Their C-Score is reflective of how they played the majority of the season at -26.798. But in this game, Miami led or tied the entire way until there were only 4 minutes left. With their +2 turnover differential, they drove 13 plays covering 75 yards and 3.5 minutes of clock to win it 27-24. We have the 1987 season coming in at number 8, and while this season was disrupted by a work stoppage that included games with replacement players, this Week 2 matchup was totally unaffected by that. We have here the 1-0 Washington Redskins taking on the 0-1 Atlanta Falcons. This early in the season probably wasn't known how big an upset this would be, but by the end of things, the difference between these two teams in C-Score was 51.701. Washington, of course, went on to win the Super Bowl this year. They're not one of the more overwhelming Super Bowl champions of all time, but they did go 11-4, put together a point differential of nearly 100 points, and landing a C-Score of 17.941. The issue here is just how bad the Falcons were this year. They ended the year 3-12, getting outscored by 231 points, and pulled off the daily double of being the league's lowest scoring team and allowing the most points for their C-score of negative 33.76. Now in this game, Atlanta was +2 in turnovers. Each team did score 3 touchdowns, but Washington screwed up the snap on the extra point of their second touchdown. Nothing else particularly special happened in this game, and Atlanta held on to the 21-20 victory. We remain in the Super Bowl era, of course, but we go to the pre-merger days of 1969 for our number 7 entry. And we go back to the beginning of the season, Week 1, this matchup between the Detroit Lions and the Pittsburgh Steelers. As it turned out, by the end of the year, the difference in C-score between these two teams was 51.85. The Lions were pretty good in 1969. Their breakout season was to come. They were 9-4-1, led primarily by their defense, where they were second in the league in fewest points allowed. Their C-score is 16.293. Once again, at issue here is the team pulling the upset, the Pittsburgh Steelers. 1969 was not a good year for Pittsburgh. They went 1-13. Yes, this was their one victory to start the season. Their C-score is negative 35.557. And had Pittsburgh not won this game, of course, they would have faced the prospect of going 0-14. Both teams turned the ball over a lot, 4 times each, and we had all field goals going into the fourth quarter. Detroit scored a touchdown to make it 13-9, but then the Steelers scored one themselves to capture the 16-13 victory. On the face of things, as we enter our number 6 entry, it looks like we have a copy-paste fail here. We do not. On the same day of September 21st, 1969, week 1 of that season, we have 2 of the 10 biggest upsets in the entire Super Bowl era. This one belonging to the Minnesota Vikings taking the upset in a game against the New York Giants. The C-score difference between these two teams by the end of the year was 53.912. Now, coming into this game, it probably wasn't known how big an upset this was going to be. The two teams were fairly evenly matched the year before. But 1969 was the absolute breakout for the Vikings, going 12-2, leading the league in points scored and fewest points allowed, getting to the Super Bowl, not winning it, but putting together a massive C-score of 43.178. Coming off their 1966 season, the Giants started showing some signs of improvement. They weren't too terrible in 1969. They went 6-8. They were outscored on the year. Their C-score was in the double-digit negatives, but not by much, at minus 10.734. This game, like the Lions game, included 2 teams that turned the ball over an equal amount of times, twice each. A Minnesota field goal in the fourth quarter gave them a 23-10 lead. But 2 touchdown passes from former Viking quarterback Fran Tarkenton, both to Don Herman, resulted in a 24-23 upset victory for the Giants. We head back into more modern times for our number 5 entry. This is week 9 of the 2021 season. Our matchup here is between the 5-2 Buffalo Bills and the 1-6 Jacksonville Jaguars. The difference in C-score between these two is 56.339. These were the kind of games this Buffalo Bills team was primed to lose this year. They went 11-6 with a plus 194 point differential, all 6 of those losses coming by a single possession. Nonetheless, their C-score is still very good at 28.086. The same cannot be said for the Jaguars, an almost mirror opposite. They went 3-14, outscored by more than 200 points, and were bottom 5 in the league in both points scored and points allowed. Bottom of the league, in fact, in points scored. Their C-score was negative 28.253. But in this game, both teams were allergic to the end zone. It was all field goals in the first half, which ended in a 6-6 tie. The Jaguars had a +2 turnover differential. Buffalo suffered 12 penalties for 118 yards. An early fourth quarter field goal by Jaguar kicker Matthew Wright provided the 9-6 lead, and the Bills had no answer, leaving that as our final score. For our number 4 entry, we are back in 1970. It's been the Lions and the Vikings providing us with a lot of these upsets, and it's once again the Lions in this one. This Week 8 matchup was between the 5-2 Lions and the 1-5-1 New Orleans Saints. These two teams gave us a C-score differential of 56.66. The Lions were a phenomenal team in 1970, one of only 2 teams in the post-merger era to ever have top 5 finishes in points scored, points allowed, and strength of schedule. That gave them a C-score of 33.131. The Saints, on the other hand, were the single worst team of the entire 1970s decade, and it all started here. They finished 2-11-1, got outscored by 175 points, and had a C-score of -23.259. Now, there's lots to talk about with this game. J.D. Roberts was the new head coach of the Saints after Tom Fears got fired. New Orleans had a +6 turnover differential, but this game is simply remembered for one thing: the 63-yard field goal by Tom Dempsey at the end that won it for the Saints, 19-17. One more visit here back to the 21st century for our number 3 entry. The day before Halloween 2011, Week 8, this game was between, for the 3rd straight entry, a 5-2 team, the New Orleans Saints, taking on the 0-6 Rams. This Saints team was coming off their 62-7 victory over the Colts, and they were 14-point favorites in this game. The difference of C-score between these two was 56.728, and the Saints were doing the majority of the work there. This is 2011's highest rated team by C-score, a 13-3 unit that outscored its opponents by 200 points and had a C-score of 29.123. Now, the Rams had a little bit of a bounce-back season in 2010 after their dreadful 3-year run before that, but 2011 was kind of right back in the crapper, going 2-14, getting outscored by more than 200 points, and putting together their own C-score of -27.605. None of that was evident in this game. The Rams jumped out to a 17-0 halftime lead, led 24-0 in the second half, held the Saints to just 8 first downs the entire game, and won with a final score of 31-21. We've arrived at the number 2 entry on this countdown. It comes to us from Week 3 of the 1972 season. It certainly cannot include the Miami Dolphins, who did not lose a game this year, but it can include the team they beat in the Super Bowl, the Washington Redskins, and a team from their division, the New England Patriots. Coming into this game, the Patriots were 1-1, the Redskins were 2-0, but by the end of the season, the difference in C-score between them was 64.291. As we mentioned, Washington did make the Super Bowl this year at 11-3 with a point differential of +118 and a pretty good C-score of 22.269. The totality of this upset comes from the performance this year of the Patriots. By far, the single worst 3-win team in NFL history, these guys found a way to get outscored by more than 250 points in a 14-game schedule, putting together a C-score of -42.022. Again, we had a game where both teams turned the ball over an equal amount of times. Washington did have a 14-0 lead before the Pats scored 17 straight. They led 24-21, they allowed a safety near the end, but that wasn't enough, and the Redskins lost this one 24-23. And now for the single biggest upset of the Super Bowl era. It takes place the very next season in 1973. It happened in Week 13, and it involved the team that did go undefeated the season before. The Miami Dolphins entered this game with an 11-1 record, facing off against the Baltimore Colts, who sat at a lowly 2-10. The difference in C-score between these two was close to our number 2 entry, but it was the highest of them all at 64.791. This channel has never been shy about declaring that the 1973 Dolphins were better than the 1972 Dolphins, despite those 2 losses, this one included. C-score will bear that out. It's a 9-point difference. They're at 42.767. The Colts were just 3 years removed from winning the Super Bowl and 2 years removed from having a great season. This year, they wound up going 4-10, taking a negative triple-digit number in the point differential department and landing a C-score of negative 22.024. All that said, the Colts pretty much controlled this game. They were +3 in the turnover department. Just like our number 10 entry, they had exactly 51 carries, taking theirs for 166 yards and keeping the Dolphins out of the end zone. The entire game, in fact. Only a fourth quarter field goal for the Dolphins saved their blushes in what turned into a 16-3 loss. We do have to mention one more here. This is once again from the 2011 Saints. We didn't want to include the same team twice, but we have to mention that this game would have made the list against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from just 2 weeks before their upset loss to the Rams. They did lose this game 26-20. In fact, that Colts game that they won 62-7 actually sandwiches those two teams. The spread here was 55.111. We have kind of bemoaned the Saints' luck this season in the past on this channel, but maybe, just maybe, with these 2 losses, they did it to themselves. Those then were the 10 biggest upsets of the Super Bowl era. 4 of these teams that suffered the upset wound up making it to the Super Bowl. The 69 Vikings and the 72 Redskins weren't able to win it, while the 87 Redskins and the 73 Dolphins did. Let me know your thoughts about anything you saw in this video. Was there an upset that you were expecting to see in this top 10 but didn't? Is there something that was in the top 10 that you didn't think was truly top 10 worthy? Do you think any such upset can take place this year in the ongoing 2025 season? Sound off on these topics or anything else you may have on your mind down in the comments section below. I always love to hear from you guys. Thank you once again for taking the time to join us today, and until next time, I hope you have an awesome day.